The report said the dog was dangerous, unpredictable, uncontrollable. Ink stamped his fate before anyone bothered to listen to the silence behind his eyes. In a cold training hall filled with uniforms and crossed arms, a police K9 sat perfectly still, muscles tight, ears sharp, branded as a failure by the very system that trained him. And then, from the edge of that room, a blind boy took a step forward, placed a small hand on the dog's head, and changed everything without the world realizing how close it had come to losing something extraordinary. Before this story unfolds any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when empathy meets fear, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this exist because people like you choose to care. The dog had not always been a problem. He had been born into discipline, raised on commands, structure, and purpose. From the moment his paws were big enough to run, he had been trained to protect, to detect, to serve. His instincts were sharp, his drive relentless, but somewhere along the line, something shifted. Maybe it was an incident no one documented properly. Maybe it was the weight of constant pressure, the expectation that he never fail, never hesitate, never feel. Whatever the reason, the handlers noticed changes. Sudden freezes. Intense focus that could not be broken. Reactions that did not align with commands. In a world where police dogs were expected to be precise tools, this was unforgivable. The label came quickly. Uncontrollable. The word followed him through corridors and briefing rooms. It echoed in clipped conversations and quiet nods. To the officers, it meant liability. Risk. Paperwork waiting to happen. To the dog, it meant isolation. Less touch. Shorter leashes. Longer stares filled with caution rather than trust. He sensed it in their bodies, in the way hands hovered instead of rested. Animals read what humans deny, and he knew he was no longer wanted. On the other side of town lived a boy who could not see the world but felt it more deeply than most. He had been blind since birth, his universe shaped by sound, texture, rhythm, and emotion. His days were mapped by footsteps and familiar echoes. He learned people by the way they breathed, by the weight of their presence beside him. Fear and kindness had distinct signatures to him, and he navigated life by those invisible cues. Despite his limitation, or perhaps because of it, he was unusually calm. Crowds did not overwhelm him. Loud spaces did not frighten him. He listened, truly listened, to what others missed. The visit to the police training facility was meant to be symbolic. A community outreach event. Officers showcasing discipline, service, and strength to local families. The boy had been invited as part of a program for children with disabilities, an effort to build trust and inspiration. No one had planned for him to meet the dog. In fact, most officers hoped to keep that particular K9 out of sight. He was scheduled for reassignment paperwork later that week. This was supposed to be his last public appearance, if he appeared at all. But fate does not follow schedules. As the group toured the training hall, the dog was brought out on a short leash, positioned away from the crowd, monitored carefully. His body was rigid, alert in a way that made handlers uneasy. He was not aggressive, but his intensity made people uncomfortable. Children were subtly guided to keep their distance. Parents tightened their grip. The boy, however, noticed something different. He felt the tension shift in the room, sensed the change in energy like a low hum in the air. While others reacted with caution, he felt curiosity. Guided by instinct rather than sight, the boy moved toward the sound of measured breathing and the soft click of a harness. His cane tapped slowly, confidently, until an adult tried to redirect him. The moment stretched. The dog's ears twitched. His focus locked onto the boy, not with threat, but with something closer to recognition. No one could explain it later, but something in the boy's presence disrupted the storm inside the animal. When the boy reached out, his hand found the dog's head with gentle certainty. There was no hesitation, no fear. His touch was calm, grounding. The dog did not flinch. Did not pull away. Did not react the way everyone expected him to. Instead, his muscles softened, just slightly, like a breath released after holding too long. The handlers froze, ready to intervene. The room went silent. The boy leaned closer, his forehead near the dog's ear, and whispered a single word. No one heard it clearly. It was not loud enough to carry. But whatever it was, it landed exactly where it needed to. The dog's breathing slowed. His tail, previously stiff, lowered. His eyes softened, losing that sharp edge the officers had come to fear. In that moment, the uncontrollable dog became still in a way no command had ever achieved. What happened next was not dramatic in the way movies portray miracles. There was no sudden applause, no tears spilling immediately. There was something quieter, more profound. The handlers felt it before they understood it. The leash, once taut, hung loose. The dog leaned slightly into the boy's touch, a gesture of trust so subtle it could have been missed if not for how impossible it seemed. From that day forward, the narrative around the dog began to crack. Evaluations resumed, but this time with curiosity instead of judgment. Specialists observed that the dog responded differently to calm, non-visual cues. He was not uncontrollable, he was overstimulated by environments heavy with expectation and fear. The boy's blindness meant he did not project those unspoken demands. He did not see the uniform, the rank, the history of mistakes. He felt the dog as he was in that moment. And the dog responded in kind. The boy returned to the facility multiple times. Each visit followed the same pattern. No commands shouted. No pressure applied. Just presence. Touch. Consistency. The dog began to anticipate these visits, his demeanor changing noticeably beforehand. Officers who once kept their distance now watched with quiet disbelief. A dog they had written off sat peacefully beside a child who could not see him, yet seemed to understand him better than anyone else ever had. It forced a difficult question within the department. Had they failed the dog before the dog failed them? The realization was uncomfortable. Systems are not built to admit emotional oversight, especially in places governed by protocol. But evidence does not argue, it simply exists. The dog passed reassessments not by becoming something new, but by finally being allowed to be understood. His role was adjusted. Less crowd exposure. More scent work. Tasks that matched his strengths rather than punished his sensitivities. The boy, too, was changed by the experience. His parents noticed a new confidence, a deeper sense of purpose. He spoke more often about feelings, about how calm had weight, how fear had sound. He did not claim to have fixed the dog. He simply described it as listening together. Two beings navigating a world that misunderstood them, finding clarity in shared silence. News of the bond spread quietly at first, then faster. Trainers from other units came to observe. Discussions about animal behavior shifted tone. Words like uncontrollable were used more carefully. The dog became a case study, a lesson in humility. He was no longer a liability. He was proof that force is not the only language of control, and that sometimes, the most effective intervention comes from those who see the least and feel the most. As the months passed, the dog found a new permanent assignment within a specialized unit where his focus and intensity were assets. He excelled. Not perfectly, but authentically. He was paired with handlers trained to respect his thresholds. Trust replaced tension. And every so often, the boy would visit, sitting beside him, hand resting on familiar fur, reminding him of the calm place they discovered together. If this story is touching something inside you, if it's reminding you of moments where understanding mattered more than authority, please take a second now to like the video, share it with someone who believes in compassion, and let us know in the comments how this made you feel. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who need them most. Near the end of one visit, long after the crowd had gone and the hall was quiet again, an officer watched the dog resting peacefully, eyes half closed, entirely at ease. It struck him that strength had never been the issue. Fear had been. And it was not discipline that healed it, but connection. Just before this story ends, we have one special request. Please comment the word believe if you think second chances can change lives, even when the world has already made up its mind. Because somewhere right now, there is a label being written. A judgment being finalized. A life, human or otherwise, being defined by a single word. And maybe, just maybe, all it takes to rewrite it is someone willing to reach out, whisper something kind, and listen without seeing.